Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about an interview coding problem which is longest substring of consecutive letters. Okay, so by longest substring means we have a string. We will be given with the string maybe A, B, B, C, C, and C. So we need to find out a longest consecutive letter substring, right? Which in this case is triple C. Let's take another example. A, B, C, D, D, E. Alright, so in this case, the longest substring will be double D. Let's take another example, A, B, C, D. So the longest substring in this case would be A. So any consecutive letters which we encounter, the first would be our result. So as you can see in this example, none of the letters are repeating in this string. So we would return the first letter that we encounter. Okay. So now let's just understand how we will, return this longest substring. Okay. So let's take another example, A, B, B, triple C, and double D. Okay. So this is the example which we will be discussing. So how would you do? How would you find out that triple C is the longest? Okay, so in that case, we will just iterate over this string. Okay, we will break this string into a char array. Okay, and once we have that character array, we will just do a simple for loop. Okay, I less than array dot length and I plus plus. Okay, simple. So what we are trying to do here is we will and we will first reach to the letter A. Okay, so we need to keep track of the previous substring which we have encountered, and then we will follow up, and the every other substring we will follow, we need to have its length calculated. Say for example, the occurrence of A is equals to 1. Okay, so the length of the current longest substring is 1. Okay, and then we move on. So once we go over to the next element in the character array, that is B, so that means the substring which was the consecutive substring of A ends here, as we have reached to B. Okay, so we will again try to so whatever length we have achieved so far, we will assign it to the longest length maybe. Okay, and the index, we will also keep track of the index. So it was I is equals to 0, so maybe the longest index is equals to 1. Okay, and then we proceed, we encounter B. Okay, so what we'll do is we will take B as our current character. Okay, and move on. So the next element is again B. So we will compare the previous character and the current character. So if B equals to B, that means we are still running into the current longest substring. Okay, so what we'll do is we will encounter the length. Sorry, we will increment the length and move on. Okay, so the next element is C now. So now we know B is not equal to C. So that means we have moved on to another element in the string. So we know that then we compare the previous longest length was 1, and this time the length is 2. Okay, so in that case, what we'll do is we will assign the longest length is equals to 2 now. and the index, longest index. Okay, so what we'll do is whatever the index was, maybe 0, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we will assign the index which was 2, and then we similarly move on ahead and we go on to the character C. Okay, and then we again find the next character is C and C. So how many times we will, so every time we are doing this swap, we are reinitializing our length element to 1. Okay, because any element which we encounter is minimum of length 1. Okay, every time we are moving ahead, we are doing length plus plus, length plus plus, length plus plus. So once we are traversing from the index 3 to 5, okay, so we are doing length plus plus because the character we are every time we are encountering the same character. All right. So our length will in this case will become 3, and the longest index would be, so if we will see we have started from this place, right? So we will assign this as longest index and the length would be 3 so that we can cut out this substring. Okay, so the longest index is 3. So by this we are going to get C C as substring, triple C as substring, because we will be starting doing the substring from the index 3, which is our longest index, and the length is also 3, so we will reach till here. Okay, so this length would become our longest length. Okay, longest length, and the longest index is 3 because we started from here. Okay, and then move on. So again we will reinitialize the length to 1 and we will see that there is a transition happening. We are moving into from C to now D. Okay, so C is not equal to D. That means we are again going into another set of letters, right? So now what we'll do is D and D. So again length plus plus, length plus plus. So our length will become 2. Okay. Uh, so we will compare if the longest length which we previously had, which was 3, is it less than the current length, which is 2? So that is false. So we will not update our longest length and the longest index in this case. Okay, so if these are not updated, that means we will still be pointing to triple C as our longest substring. So essentially what we are doing is we are just doing swap of longest length and longest index. Alright guys, let's just create a class called longest substring with the public static void main method in it, and let's just create our method private static. We need to return longest substring, get longest substring, or maybe we can call it get longest consecutive substring. Okay, we will pass in a input string. Okay, and let's just return empty string by default. All right. So whatever string we will receive, we need to convert it into a char array. Okay. So how we gonna do it? Input dot to character array. Okay, so now this string is converted into character array. What we gonna do next? Okay, let's just handle one scenario wherein the string is passed as empty. Okay, what we can do is if length equals to 0, we are going to return the empty string. Okay, all right. Uh, so like let's just have a sample input here. Okay, maybe A, B, B, triple C, and double D. Let's just deal with it. Okay. Uh, it's always good to keep some examples in mind. Okay, in order to verify or in order to move into a right direction. Okay, let's just write our dear for loop int I is equals to 0, I less than character array dot length, and I do I plus plus. Okay, so we talked about like we will need to keep track of the length of the consecutive substring along with the index from where it is starting so that we can later do a substring if it is the longest one. All right, so we need few variables to do that. Let's just declare them. Let's just call it in length is equals to 0. So this is going to keep track of the current length of the consecutive substring which we are dealing with. All right, and then we will have index. We will initialize it with 0 again. Okay, and then we would also need something which can hold our longest length and longest indexes. So let's just call them maybe longest length and longest index. Okay, and then we would also need certain character variables in order to compare the current character in hand with the previous character which we have already iterated over. So let's just call them the previous character. Okay, followed by, okay, let's just initialize them with also 0. Okay, so that's the sky value which we are taking now. And then we can call it as current character. All right. So because our alphabets will be ranging from A to Z in A to Z. I cannot recall. I think it's from 65 something, right? Uh, 65 plus 26, whatever that is. So we are okay with initializing them with 0, right? Okay. So I think we should be fine with these variables for now. Let's just move on and try to iterate over this string. Okay. So prior to that, what I'll do is I will initialize previous character and the current character to the first character that we have in our character array. Okay. So let's just do that. All right, and our index is already initialized to 0. All right. So now let's just move into the code, the for loop. Okay. So whatever element we will have at the I equals to 0, right? So whenever, so whatever we are iterating, right, we will put it into the character, current character. Okay. So for this example, we are assigning a to our current character variable. Okay, so which we have already done, right? But let's just do it. And then because we will be moving on with other elements, right? So every time we are iterating over the character array, we are assigning it to the current character, right? And then let's just compare it with our previous character. If both are equal, right? So we have initialized previous character with a as well, and now we have put in a in the current character, and we are saying if previous character is equal to current character. That means if they are, same, which means that we have encountered the consecutive characters. Okay, so what we are going to do, we will just increment the length variable, and then we will assign previous character with the current character, right? All right, so we will come back to this example while iterating. Okay, so this is done. Okay, what happens next? Say for example, what if they are not equal? Okay, so what we are going to do is previous character, if it is not equal to current character, that means we are in this scenario wherein previous character was a and the current character has come out to be b. So what happens in that case? Okay, so what happens in that case? We will assign, right? We will check the length. If the current length is greater than the, sorry, longest length. So if the current length which we have incremented here comes out to be greater than the longest length which we have initially assigned it to 0, right? So that's gonna be a true case. Then what we will do is we will assign the longest length to current length. Okay, and the longest index will become the current index. So the current index was 0 because we want the substring to begin with the index and followed by the length. So we have assigned the longest index with the index. Okay. All right. So we have our length and longest index in places. All right. And then after every iteration, okay, so once we have done this swap, we will go into another iteration, and before we do that we also need to take care of the reassignments. All right, so if the length, so we need to reset the variables. Okay, so we will reset the length to 1 this time, because every other character which we will encounter in this given string will at least have length of 1, right? It will at least have one character. If it is not followed by the consecutive characters, even then its length is going to be 1. Okay, and then the new index will become I. Okay, and the previous character again would be our current character. All right, guys, let's just put this code to test. We should return the longest substring here, which is input dot substring. Okay, longest index which we have mentioned, followed by longest index plus the longest length. Okay, let's just put the code to test. Have some input. Maybe this is on this one only. Okay, let's just run it and see. Oops, we haven't called our function. All right. Uh, let's just call it triple C. Okay. Let's take few more examples. Let's just take ABC. Let's see what happens. Okay. Let's just take few more examples. Working fine. Let's just take only one character. What happens in that case? We also take one empty string. Okay, so far we are going good. Let's just try a few more examples. Maybe aabbbc. Okay, so for this input we are getting triple C, which is right. For this one we are getting A again. Okay, aabbbcc, which is right. Um, 1, 2, 3. For the fourth one we are not getting any response back, and for the fifth one it's empty, which is fine. And for this one we are getting AA. All good. We are facing some problem with the single input. Okay, so when we pass in the single input A, right, we should be getting A as the longest substring. Why we are not getting it? Because we are going in here, we are assigning previous character equals to current character, which is true, right? Because we have passed in only A and assigned it to. Okay, so that should be true. And then if it is true, right, the length should be 1. Okay. Okay, if it is not equals to, we are not, or we can have another condition here. If our element is already reached the last variable, right? So we passed in as input only A, okay, which satisfied this condition, okay. And now we want to test out if not, or we have already reached the last element. We would like to, reassign our longest and length and longest index in that case, okay. So let's just do it. All right, now we are getting the longest substring as A. Yeah, I think this pretty much covers every scenario. Okay, if you find any other violating condition, do let me know in the comments. And if you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.